So what's up, fellow journeyers? It looks like 2020, as far as RVing, may have gotten just a little more complicated.
There is some good news though. Summer isn't canceled. We're still gonna have a summer. Mm-hmm. It's just gonna look a little different this year. We can still dream, right? We can still dream about travel, even if we don't get to travel, or it might not be for a while, or it might just look different.
Obviously, if you get out and you're doing things, use your own precautions, do your own homework, what we say now could be out of date in 5 seconds. So it's like, and that's part of what makes this so difficult, is everything is changing so much. One minute they're like, hey, you know, half the parks are open. Maybe it's like only for local residents, or maybe there's a 14-day quarantine, or maybe like it's only open at a certain time in a certain way. Can you camp here? Maybe, maybe not. And if you can camp, can you use the facilities as visitors? There's a ton of questions, and it varies insanely.
State to state.
State to state, and not just state to state, like state park to state park. In Tennessee right now, every state park is open except for the one that is right next to us. It changes so much, but one of the best places I've seen that's covering that changing resource is campendium.com. If you go there, they got a link right there on the front page. They're doing a really good job every day of updating what's open, what's not, what's going on, where can you go, what does it do state by state. So you got to do your homework before you go. And so like a lot of you guys, we're just itching to travel. I also, before we made this video, I knew there had to be other people itching to travel. So we reached out to our patrons and said, look, you know, where are you dreaming of going? Maybe not 2020, maybe 21, maybe 2022. That's kind of a tongue twister to say all those. But I asked, where are you dreaming of going? And this is what some of them responded with. Now, the trekkers said we visited Yellowstone, Glacier, the dream of being there. The Tetons, Peter and Alicia basically said, we just want to go out west. Bob mentioned Yellowstone, Glacier, Grand Tetons again. Carl's looking forward to Yosemite, Franklin Lake. Troy and Brandy mentioned the Balloon Fiesta, totally pumped about that one day. Badlands, Tetons. William and Jillian, again, Glacier National Park, Black Hills, South Dakota. Mike and Sarah, Redwoods National Park, Grand Tetons, Smoky Mountain National Park.
Ooh.
So these 5 places we're going to mention are obviously not the only 5 places you can go in the United States. We couldn't possibly mention everywhere in the U.S. to go, so we're having to leave off Alaska is epic. Obviously, if you can go there in the summer, it's going to be awesome, but difficult in 2020. Also, we're leaving off maybe places that are hot in the summer. You can go to hot destinations in the summer, the Florida Keys, Southern Texas, but we're going to emphasize places that are maybe a little more follow the weather friendly for RVers.
Some of the things we're going to emphasize, some epic scenic drives, some things that would avoid large crowds, some great hikes, just being outdoors, and all around just awesome, beautiful, great places that are definitely on our radar that we've missed, that we can't wait to get back and see, and we hope you can add to your bucket travel list.
And that's a big part of what this video is about. We're honestly, we're itching to travel. Like we want to put together some footage, some places, and just
travel with us right now.
Travel with us.
I think we all
want to
this.
get out. Yes, let's just go on a ride together. Let's go RVing together for a few minutes, and let's just pretend we're in a different place and all this is open. Hopefully, for too long, it'll be back to
we can see these places in person.
More normal than where we're at. So number 1, and these are not in order of best to worst or anything like that, but this is number 1 on a lot of people's lists. I know it was your mom's definitely one of her bucket list items.
That's how I got my mom to travel with us, was saying, we'll take you to the Grand Canyon.
So we had a great time at the Grand Canyon. We had the Airstream. A smaller rig is going to be better if you want to stay in the Grand Canyon, because you've got 2 main camping options of Desert View, which is on the east side, and you've got Mather Campground that's at the main entrance, and there's some private parks on the outside too. But we got into Desert View, which is on the east side. It was a first come, first serve. If you're a shorter rig, shorter is definitely 35 feet or less. 30 or less is even better. We were one of the biggest ones in there, I think. Even at 30 feet with the Airstream. So it's a pretty small campground. But I remember the first day, like there was like an elk just eating right there next to us. You can walk to the Grand Canyon from the campground. It's open, it's airy, it's not packed in tight. Didn't feel that way at all to us. And the Desert View side with the tower, which is still pretty cool. You've got all these different views, but it did not seem super crowded, even though we're there in the summer. Checking that out compared to like the main entrance at the South Rim, at least.
The Grand Canyon was definitely one of those bucket list places of when we started RV life. I was like, I have to go to the Grand Canyon. I've never been there. It did not disappoint. And there are definitely spots that are super crowded, but there are some off the beaten path kind of spots as well. There's some great hiking trails. South Kaibab and Bright Angel are, I mean, amazing. We did an off the beaten path hike called Shoshone, and I mean, we were the only ones there.
We
I
did,
think
yeah.
one person showed up when we were leaving, but we had the whole place to ourselves. So there are definitely some awesome ways to get out there, explore, and even be a little secluded while doing so.
And another thing about hiking in these national parks, state parks, any of these places, sometimes you see a trail and it's like they have the descriptions of how long it is and whether it's like mild or super difficult, and you're like, oh, super difficult, I'm not going to do that. Well, sometimes if you do the research, you don't have to do the whole hike. So you could pick a super difficult hike, and there's not, because the easier the hikes are, the more people are going to be on those trails. So you could pick one that's super difficult and just not do the whole hike, especially if it's a down and back. I know there's some of those in Grand Canyon. You just pick the super difficult one. You go maybe a fourth of the way instead of doing the entire thing. You come back and it's still an awesome hike. We got to get some treehouse in, right? Number 2, and most of these are going to be out west. Most is in all. Kind of northwest, some of them. So in this spot, these 4 things are all in one area, and I think the combination of all these make it an awesome spot. So
It's one of the best places in the country as far as getting your biggest bang for your buck, all within one area. You've got some awesome stuff to explore.
And we say bang for the buck, but you can actually explore this area pretty cheaply if you don't go into Moab. And so you may know where we're at. Utah, of course, one of the Mighty 5, actually 2 of the Mighty 5 as far as national parks are in this one area. So we boondocked outside of Arches National Park, like what, 15 minutes outside of it, something like that, for free. And then you can, from there, you can get into Arches and within 15 minutes of the national park. We like Arches because the hiking's pretty spread out. There's lots of different things to do. And if nothing else, if you just want to, pretty good drive.
Yes.
We're all about the drives. And there are some really cool ways to do drives in this area. You can even, we rented a Jeep from a cliffhanger. And so you can do Jeep rental if you have your own Jeep. Tons of places.
That was so fun.
Oh, yeah,
That's one of my favorite highlights of our RV life experience is renting that Jeep. But we did this off-roading trail in the Jeep. We just spent all day just riding around, and oh man, that was so much fun.
It's fun,
Sunshine.
especially if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, it's
very, very secluded and just a lot of backcountry. It was really fun. We had so
it was
much
cool.
fun. Moab is kind of like this huge mecca for outdoor trails, whether you're in a Jeep or ATVs or Razor. I mean, there are so many outdoor trails there. So much fun. And
it's, in general, it's a very outdoorsy area. Now, granted, this area can get kind of hot in the summer too. This is probably the hottest, I think, of all the places we're going to mention, probably something like that. But still, it's still just an awesome place. You can boondock where we did. If it gets hot, they do also have private parks where you can have hookups and stuff like that. You can also, everything's within like an hour-ish of each other. Canyonlands National Park, you can reach that from the same area. And then Dead Horse State Park, which some people love just as much as some of the national parks as well, which is a really cool state park. Mainly about the drive, mainly about the views. And so all 4 of these things and all 4 of these places, except for maybe Moab, it can probably be a little more crowded and more people maybe in Moab, I guess, if you kind of watch for that. But other than that, you can still stay pretty secluded in all these different areas.
Our third spot that we're dreaming of, that we loved so much, is the Black Hills in South Dakota. And I know
some of you are like, huh?
I absolutely loved the Black Hills. And I remember my brother went on vacation with his in-laws and was like, yeah, we're going to Mount Rushmore and going to South Dakota. And I was like, you just don't hear of people like vacationing out there very often. I was just surprised. And ironically, like, we ended up there a couple months after he did. It needs more publicity. That place is awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. We loved it. It was one of our favorite spots. Again, so much in one area. You have Custer State Park, which is equivalent to like a national park. It's huge. It's huge. Beautiful. Yep. There's tons of amazing drives. The Needles, Iron Mountain. You can catch glimpses of Mount Rushmore through these tunnels. It's just, it's historical. It's gorgeous. So much wildlife. I mean, it's one of our favorite spots.
So that's kind of an area, you know, Mount Rushmore can kind of be an area, but you've also got an area, one of our favorite boondocking spots we ever stayed at. Scenic View, is that what they called it, I guess?
Or was it Nomad View?
Nomad View, Scenic View, check them both. But,
it's on Campendium.
Yes, that same area near Wall, South Dakota, you get this great boondocking spot. And you can drive from there and you can see Badlands National Park, which is not far away. So like, we love these, everything we're sharing. It's not just like one spot. It's like you get these 4, 5, 6 great areas you can check out. So instead of spending your time driving from spot to spot, you park in one great spot or maybe a couple different spots and you can just check out all kinds of things. You have the, I call it Tourist Trap of Wall.
Jungle jive. Look at that caveman.
You ready?
I don't think this is what she expected.
That's not what I expected. Look at that.
All right.
That's him. There he is. He's hanging out.
Now when he starts eating, we might have to get out of here. I don't know that that's going to go well. Was that a jackalope or something there you get your picture with? All kinds of, like a little dinosaur that scared Hensley to death.
5-cent coffee.
Yeah. So this is one of those great areas where you can seclude yourself as little or as much as you want based on the drives and where you're boondocking and all that kind of stuff. We really enjoyed it. The number 4 on our list, and this is on a lot of people's lists, this was probably, if I had a bucket list, this would probably be Yellowstone. Like, oh man, what I call like the man's, I don't know, national park or something. Like, just so many awesome things to do in Yellowstone. And again, Yellowstone, sort of like Grand Canyon, the first thing you think about, I know for me when I'm planning, is like, oh man, what do you do about the crowds? Even if the pandemic wasn't going on, like, there's a lot of
for its
it's
crowds.
known for its crowds. It's a huge
super
park.
Crowded, yes.
But yeah, the more popular areas can get crowded. We actually didn't reserve anything in Yellowstone beforehand in the summer, and we heard, oh, it's gonna be terrible. Like,
You'll never get
anything.
anything.
It's gonna be a nightmare. Yeah, but we figured it out, and it worked out pretty well. Now we had the Airstream. It was shorter. That kind of helped. The first thing we did with Yellowstone, that for us, again, we try to kind of avoid crowds anyways. So we actually boondocked outside of Yellowstone on the north side. I don't know if it's like a BLM.
It was
or
awesome.
Oh yeah, it was great. And honestly, that was like, after we got there, we said, you know what? If we can't get into Mammoth Springs Campground, which is what we wanted to get into inside Yellowstone because it was a first come, first serve, we said we'd be okay staying here. It's a little longer to drive in and out of the park, but we can make it work. But we stayed there just so we could get up the next morning and get to the first come, first serve in Mammoth Springs.
Nathan.
We as in Nathan. So I woke up the next morning. I think they were maybe waking up by the time I got back 2 hours later.
I stayed back with Hensley.
Yeah. So we did get in. So for the most part, we went from there. We went to Mammoth Springs, which is a great location to visit the springs and a lot of other things in Yellowstone. So the key, one of the keys to Yellowstone for us was stay in the park if you can, because if you can stay in the park or as close as you can to the park, then you can get to things in the park sooner and faster. If it takes you an hour to get into the park for your first destination, you're already an hour behind, sort of. So by being in Mammoth Springs, like, we would start exploring. They hated it and they wanted to kill me, but like, 7 a.m., I guess, a lot of mornings. It's amazing, isn't it? And doesn't it just magnify it when you're here, like, by yourself, pretty much?
It is. It's a much more pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
This just looks beautiful. We started mapping everything out, and Nathan's like, we're going to have to be going at like 7 a.m. And I was like, oh, really? Like,
that is not our style. Usually,
I did not want to be out hiking at 7 a.m., but I'm so glad that we did, because from that 7 to 9, we barely saw anybody. I mean, we had everything to ourselves, no crowds, and it just made it a more enjoyable experience. Being there in the early morning and just smoke and fog like rising off of the hot water. It was just a neat family experience, and I was so glad, and it was worth getting up for to have that kind of unique experience. Oh, sorry, that bag scared me.
What scared you?
That plastic bag was moving in the wind.
Okay.
It was just a really unique experience being there early in the morning. So I don't get up super early for a lot of things, but that was totally worth it and a great way to explore the park. And then you can just come back, have lunch, take a nap, and that's when the crowd starts showing up around that time.
Because we've seen the flip side. I know we did a Rocky Mountain National Park a year or two before that. We waited in line to get into the park, to get through the ranger station. We waited in line. We drove up to where we wanted to do our hike. We waited in line to try to get in the parking lot and find a spot. Once we found our spot, we walked to the bus station. We waited in line to get on the bus. Once we rode the bus and got to where we're supposed to hike, we got off the bus and we pretty much conga line through the hike. So we love Rocky Mountain National Park. We love Colorado Springs, but they actually didn't make the list because, at least, and this may have totally changed. We may have been there at the wrong time. I don't know. It was July, August. I don't know. It was definitely summer, but it was very crowded. But Yellowstone, we at least know from experience, there are ways to do it and manage the crowds a little bit. Now, you know, so that worked for us. You know, the whole 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., like that gap, or even 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. But if you go like after dinner and go out and do like a sunset kind of drive in Yellowstone, those weren't bad either. We did a hike with some buffalo. That's our path out of here. The whole crew is coming. Mackenzie, you're our decoy. Oh, all right, there you go, Hensley. Well, we're gonna walk down this riverbed and see if there's a good place to cross somewhere. It's plan B. Plan C involves Marissa riding a buffalo.
So careful. That time of the day is when the wildlife starts coming out too.
Yeah,
so we would catch wildlife, we would catch scenery, and that's what's great about staying in these national parks. Also, Yellowstone has an awesome location as far as the Tetons are right next to it. I mean, you can drive from one park into the other, and we love the Tetons. And so again, one of those areas where you can explore so much in one area. Definitely check out Tetons as well. Our 5th spot on the list is Glacier National Park. Glacier is, I guess the word to me would be magical. Going to the Sun Road stands out to me as being my favorite scenic drive we've ever done. We
thoroughly enjoyed Glacier, and it was even like smoked out most of the time. We were like running from the smoke from one place to the other. Going to the Sun, we only got to, you know, the middle part, and we didn't even get to do the second half because there was so much smoke you couldn't see anything.
Like
but
the
still,
Continental Divide.
Yeah, we got to the divide, and that's like the smoke was on one side and it wasn't on the other, and so it was it was funny. Every day we'd hear an announcement, you know, Momma hike is shutting down, because we go to the visitor center and they'd be announcing this stuff, and like, but everything's okay, don't worry. The next day we go back to the visitor center, because we stayed in the park, which again is awesome, so we could just ride our bikes to the visitor center every day and see what was closing down because of the smoke. And like day 2, my Momma cabin has kind of burned down, but everything's okay. Day 3, my so every day, like finally by like day 4 or 5, they're like, okay, my go when the sun shut down, you might want to leave. We're like, well, the main road shut down, there's nothing else to do, so we moved to another park, but we want to go back. I think that's one of the reasons we want to go back there about as bad as anywhere, because we did not get to do that park justice. We didn't get to do 3/4 or more of the hikes. We did a couple of hikes.
We did some awesome stuff.
Oh, and the hikes. Wow, Hensley!
We did some awesome stuff.
Oh, and the hikes, yeah.
That place is incredible.
It's just awesome.
Glacier, there's just really, there's nothing like it. It's super beautiful there, and yeah, definitely it is on our return list, because you know, we did not get to do that park justice that we wanted to. It's just incredible.
And it's another one of those parks, I think a lot of these parks, there are definitely some hikes. You know, we were there, and there was still quite a few people there. I think the campground was pretty full.
Yeah.
And so there are definitely some hikes you can do where you see very few people, because we did those hikes, and I don't remember the hikes being very crowded. There's a lot of hikes there, and so people are spread out. And we've kind of prioritized a lot of those parks where you've got a decent shot at that, you know, if that's what you're wanting right now.
That's our top 5 dreamy places that we're dreaming of this year, and not really sure what this year is going to look like as far as travel, but we can still dream, and we can still make plans, and just take it day by day, and hopefully we'll get to get out there soon and start making fun memories together soon.
So if you want more videos of national parks, there are definitely way more places to check out than what we've shown and talked about, but you can click on the playlist on YouTube. That'll have like pretty much all of our national park videos that we've done, so check that out. Keep dreaming. Thank you, patrons, for sharing some of your dreams and some of the places you want to go. Feel free to share places you like to go with us as well. Until next time, catch you guys later.